Hello, everyone. I'm Suhail Khan, and I'm the Director of Engineering at Huawei's Consumer Business Group. And I'm also the chair of an open source project called as Oniro OS, which I will be talking to you in more detail about today. So, a bit of context before I jump into my slides. Open source, by its nature, is global, right? Major open source foundations are present cross-regional, so do the major open source projects as well. But problems arise in open source when you try to do globalization. How? Well, different regions have different requirements. The developers might build their code in a different way in some regions, and in another region in a different way. They might use different APIs, different frameworks, and so on. So this is exactly the problem that we are trying to solve with the Oniro project. So the topic of my talk is called Think Global, Code Local. I want to start off by showing you these stats. So on the right, we have the developer stats from Stack Overflow's developer survey last year. The respondents of this developer survey were mostly based in countries like the United States, the European countries, countries like India, and so on. And what we see here shouldn't really come as a surprise. You have the usual suspects leading the way when it comes to popularity. So you have JavaScript, the newer languages like Kotlin, Rust, then the older ones like Java, C#, and so on. Then on the left, we have the developer survey results from the Stack Overflow of China, called as CSDN. And here, the results that we see are quite different. We have the dinosaur of the modern programming languages, Java, leading the way. And then we have the usual ones like Python, C#. We even have assembly in there. But what's really surprising here is that you don't find languages such as Rust. And also, Kotlin is there, but it's not as popular. So this shows that there's a lot of diversification when it comes to choice of technologies for developers in different regions. Now, this is just the programming languages, but when you look under the hood, it's again a whole different story. When you look at the frameworks and the APIs used, they are completely different, right? So this is the problem we are trying to solve with the Oniro project. Think global, code local, right? On one hand, we want to enable the developers easily build their code irrespective of the boundaries and the constraints that are brought regionally. We want the OEMs to easily ship their products into the market, and we want to help companies easily build their ecosystems in different markets. So how did this come about? Oniro was born as the result of world's first open source collaboration agreement between two major open source foundations. We have the Open Atom Foundation, which is China's first and only open source foundation, which is also incubating a project called as OpenHarmony. And then we have the Eclipse Foundation, which is quite big historically for its work on IDEs and Java, and has a strong governance framework. And Eclipse currently hosts the Oniro project. So what does this strategic collaboration agreement entitle? It enables OpenHarmony compatibility to the global market. What's that? We'll see in a bit. So Oniro was started in 2020, and since then, we've actually gained quite a few members from really different areas of expertise. As Huawei, we were the founding member of this project. Then we have some partners such as Array, which is really strong in IP compliance toolchain, also has members on the board of OSI. We have companies like Bosch, which is a household name when it comes to industrial and automotive products. We have hardware vendors. We have Software Mansion, which is one of the top contributors to the React Native library. And we also have IDE developers. We even have a university doing R&D in our project. Okay, so we have a set of guiding principles in the Oniro project, right? Adaptable, modular, collaborative, and market ready. And now I'm going to jump into each of these to show you exactly what it means. So being adaptable means that you need to support your devices or your code on a set of devices of different sizes, whether it's really small MCUs to really large SoCs. As a developer, you should be able to run your code across different platforms. And where does the adaptability of Oniro really come from? From a behemoth called OpenHarmony, right? It was also started in 2020. And since then, it has grown to be China's #1 open source project. It has more than 75,000 forks. More than 75,000 forks, more than 7,500 contributors. And it has 59 special interest groups. And these stats are changing each day, right? And those were just the developer stats. When you look at the product stats, they're equally impressive. There are about 350 commercial products that are already available, and also more than 200 development boards as well. And examples of some of these products, so we have drones, cameras, robots, tablets, IoT devices, financial gateway systems. We have even sent OpenHarmony to the space. Right, so, and ensuring that there is adaptability in a cross-regional scenario is definitely not easy. But thanks to Eclipse's strong experience in defining specification processes, we've built up a system, and we are actively working on achieving this compatibility between OpenHarmony specifications and the Eclipse Foundation's specifications, which ensures that there are no risks when you distribute code or push code into either of these projects. The next principle, modular. And this really comes from how we've structured the tech stack, right? So we mirror the master branch of OpenHarmony. And OpenHarmony by itself is also modular. It is divided into different sets of layers, starting from the kernel to all the way to the application and the IDE layer. And in the Oniro project, what we are doing is building technical additions around it. I won't go into the details of each of these tech add-ons, but to name a few, so we have React Native, which is a very popular cross-platform programming framework. We have the Eclipse Canto project, which is really popular in IoT device development. We have Thea IDE, which has been around for a while. And we also have our own IP compliance toolchain. So modularity in tech these days is not something that's really innovative, especially given that there are microservices everywhere. But what makes our modularity unique is that given the way how OpenHarmony is structured, it gives us independence to pick and choose the paths that we want and the kind of partners we invite to the Oniro working group. And most importantly, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are trying to use what's out there in the market at the moment and trying to build or integrate them into OpenHarmony's ecosystem. Right? So we are not just a consumer of OpenHarmony, but we also contribute and synchronize back upstream. So on one hand, you have the downstream mirror on GitHub, and we upstream back to the OpenHarmony repositories, which are hosted in Gitty through pull requests. Okay, collaborative. This principle is, I think, common across all the open source projects. As I said, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We've utilized the existing foundations of other strong open source projects such as the Eclipse IoT, Eclipse Canto, Eclipse Theum, and we are using already market-ready products such as React Native or Rust libraries. And this is one of the key goals of our project for this year. All that reusing of the different open source components has given us an easy entry into building a developer phone. So we plan to launch a developer phone this year, which is very European focused. What does a developer phone mean? It would be a plug-and-play solution similar to what a Raspberry Pi would be in an embedded use case. And we want to ensure deep integration of European regulations around it. And we are doing this with a German OEM called as Vola Systems. And we also plan to build an application store around it. This already exists with a lot of popular open source apps and a rich graphical UI. And building a phone from scratch is never easy, right? It's a different stage process. Currently, we are in stage 2, trying to port the kernel to a new hardware which runs on a MediaTek chipset. But the goal is that we will be at stage 4 by the end of this year. And to reach there, we, of course, need a lot more partners. At the moment, we are also looking out for an exclusive connectivity partner. So if you're a telco out there in the crowd, or if your company name is also the name of a fruit and a color, I welcome you to join our Oniro working group. Yeah. And here's another success story. This is the IoT integration that we did with Bosch to enable a digital twin scenario for reading the device metrics. And this was done on a Hope Run board. And finally, the last principle that we have is to enable market readiness. So here we use market-ready technologies, React Native, which is already quite advanced, to build and deploy your mobile apps. And we have a strong IP compliance toolchain, which checks all the licenses that you're using. So in the previous talk from Valentin, he also spoke about the risk that comes with using the wrong licenses and patents in an open source project. But here, what we also have is a demo of a React Native application. So we have a huge set of demos. You can check them out at our booth. We enable an easy journey to our partners to build their apps or products so that they don't have to start writing code from scratch. And our IP compliance toolchain currently checks for first-party and third-party components, scanning the code. And this also comes with a beautiful dashboard, which shows the different risks that you might have in your code. And it is based on FOSSology. All right, so that was about what Oniro is and what will Oniro be in 2024. So our main goal, as I said earlier, is to work on the Oniro developer phone. We've been progressing at quite a good pace, and we hope to launch it by the end of this year. In parallel, we are also working on our application ecosystem. We are also working on IoT integrations and on the IP compliance toolchain. And it just doesn't stop there. We also have a lot of other initiatives that we will work on. So for example, we are working on Servo project. Servo was a project that was launched by Mozilla a few years ago, and it's a web engine project written in Rust. So we are also focusing a lot on Rust because it improves the performance in managing memories or your device resources. And we are also working on an IDE. And our community is growing at also quite a good pace. Just in the last 3 months, we've added 3 new partners, so we are growing at a rate of 1 partner per month, if I take the last 3 months as a stat. And also our adoption is improving continuously. We also plan to launch other products apart from a phone in the near future. And here are some of the resources for our working group. You're always free to come and have a chat with me. But summarizing what I told in my talk, so Oniro and OpenHarmony were born as a source of strategic collaboration agreement between Open Atom Foundation and the Eclipse Foundation. And this is to enable cross-regional compatibility between a very large Chinese project and a very large European project. And at the moment, our focus is mobile and IoT, but we wouldn't stop here. We also want to expand into other areas. I welcome any new interesting partners out there in the crowd. And we are nothing without a community of developers, so I also invite the community developers to have a look into our repositories and play around with the code. So yeah, that was for my talk. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.